Yeah, you've just been banging on about this horse so much. Like, he finished second or third at Limerick on Stephen's Day, and you were on Twitter. I can't feel what a fantastic performance.
Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. And what a weekend of racing we had. It was Cheltenham Trials Day. I seem to say that after every weekend, but this one really did seem good. Paisley Park beat Champ in the Cleve Hurdle. We had Chantry House winning the Cotswold Chase, and we had plenty of other impressive performances, including Pied Piper, which we're going to go into before previewing the Dublin Racing Festival. What a weekend. It's my favourite weekend of racing all calendar year. You're lucky enough to be going. This year I'm not. It's the only year outside of COVID that I've missed, and I'm gutted.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic being up there. It's disappointing not getting you over, but obviously, hopefully back to normal next year. It should be a fantastic couple of days. I get the sense over here in Ireland we've been let out of the cage in the recent weeks, with obviously all restrictions going off, and hopefully we'll get a massive crowd in at Leopardstown over Saturday and Sunday. No reasons why we shouldn't, and especially after the Six Nations game on Saturday and good racing on Saturday, it's sure to be a lively one down those Camden and Ainger Street and the likes come Saturday evening.
It's just a top quality 2 days, and I completely see why it's become so popular as well with the top Irish trainers as well as race goers. It's just perfect timing as well. You get to see the best Irish horses. In our last video, we said that we were going to give away a Let's Talk Racing cap. There's only 3 of these made in the world. I've got mine here. Andrew has got yours. And this one here is the giveaway winner. So this Let's Talk Racing cap, LTR, only 3 of them made in the world. Andrew, who has won it?
The winner is Matthew Prescott. So Matthew, if you want to contact either of us on Twitter or the Let's Talk Racing Twitter page, we'll get that out to you as soon as possible. You are the lucky winner of the LTR cap competition, and it was great to see, Josh, such great numbers commenting down on the previous video. Obviously a little venture of ours, and great to see such support.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think over 400 comments on the last video. We also have plenty of likes, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. We've got some brilliant content coming towards the Cheltenham Festival. I think we'll almost be doing 2 videos a week from now on. It's going to get very busy, but it's going to get very exciting, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Also, we had a few messages regarding the caps, and people were saying that if we didn't win one, is there any opportunity to buy one? Now, we've managed to get 25 made, and you can buy one right now using the first link in the top line of the description down below. We've got 25 up for sale, and once they're gone, they are gone, very limited, and that's the only time you'll ever be able to buy these caps. So if you do want to be part of Let's Talk Racing, then please do go down and buy one of these Let's Talk Racing caps. But reflecting on last week's best bets, it was about time. There was 2 quiet weeks, and finally we chucked one dart, and he won. Torn and Frayed 16-1 under Sam Twiston-Davies, giving him a brilliant ride. Coming around the bend at the bottom of the hill, I didn't think it was likely, but he took off up the hill and won very impressively. I was very, very happy with that. And you had Stattler as well?
Yeah, Stattler won, Mercury Lane placed, and I know plenty of you were asking me about Big King. It was a horrible watch in the handicap early. Got no room at the inn, turning in at a crucial time. There will be a day with him, hopefully sooner rather than later. But Josh, I must tip my cap to you, because that Torn and Frayed shout, I wouldn't have backed it in a month of Sundays, and you've plucked it out of thin air at 16-1 to keep LTR followers firmly in clover.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep that up this week. We've got the Dublin Racing Festival, plenty of racing to choose from. One of my best bets is actually from Wetherby. Sorry to be a dampener on things, but let's look back on last weekend's racing, and visually there wasn't a better performance of Pied Piper in the Triumph Hurdle Trial. Came into the race having beaten Vauban, who's favourite for the Spring Juvenile at the Dublin Racing Festival this weekend, in a maiden hurdle. It was just a bog standard maiden hurdle, but it looks like it's going to turn out to be well above average. And Davy Russell was travelling like a dream, didn't have to touch him, was ridden to perfection, and it shows the massive gap of quality between the Irish juveniles and the British juveniles. He was just in a different league.
Well, hard not to be very impressed with him, Josh. He jumped pretty slickly, made a few mistakes down the back, I suppose, which ended up him being maybe a little bit further back than Davy Russell would have maybe ideally been. But the fact that they went too quick as well, it happens so much of the time in those meetings at Cheltenham, like the November meeting, Trials Day, where an awful lot of races are won by closers that are profiting, especially on that new course, from a kind of busy early tempo. And he's come and won hard held. He was right on the steel as well. That maiden herd looks a pretty good race, as you say. You've been very keen on this Vauban. He's got a good chance on the weekend. HMS Seahorse, one of Paul Nolan's horses, was way back in third. He actually ran a very good race against the Tide Turns next time out as well. So the form of that race looks very good. Is it as good as what Phil Dore's done? Very hard to know. And maybe we will finally get a sway on that when Vauban runs potentially against Phil Dore on this weekend of where that stronger form line lies. But Pied Piper certainly well justifying himself being right at the top of the Triumphal betting.
Gordon Elliott immediately after the race still said that Phil Dore was the better of the two. I suppose I'm not asking you if you believe him, but at this stage with Pied Piper and Phil Dore, what we've seen so far, who would you be more leaning towards, let's say, for the Triumph Hurdle?
It's a very hard one. I suppose just at the moment in time I'd still maybe edge towards Phil Dore. I just love him. I love the way he goes about it. He's so relaxed. He jumps impeccably and he kind of finds when you need him to find. What's going to be very interesting if the two of them run, who's Davy going to ride? That might give you a bit of a steer as well, because I'd say he has first dibs with those two horses. Now, the other horse will be ridden by Jack Kennedy, so it's not exactly a back number, but it'll be interesting to see where Davy's allegiances do go.
The Stayers Hurdle had a big shake-up as well over the last week. Classical Dream was disappointing. Royal Kahala was an impressive winner in the end. Maybe she could go towards the Stayers instead of the Mares Hurdle. It's a possibility. What did you make of his run? Because he was very, very disappointing.
Yeah, he was. He travelled with plenty of enthusiasm as usual, but there was just nothing under the bonnet this time round. I can only think it was just too close, the runs together. It seemed an odd bit of placing. I think they were hoping that he'd get a run like Allaho got last week at Thurles, where you just scoot around and win comfy. Instead, Royal Kahala's come and won very well. She's a very good mare. If it turned up soft ground for the Mares Hurdle, she'd have a cracking chance. I don't know whether it will though or not, and she does seem to be ground dependent. And also Home by the Lee being in there completely muddies that form, because he shouldn't have been anywhere close in that race. But he came second, so is he just completely overachieved, or is the form not brilliant? Very hard to get a gauge on. But Classical Dream, I wouldn't give up on him for Cheltenham. I know plenty have. I'd be prepared to potentially give him another chance, but because I do think there was a genuine excuse that it's come quite close after Leopardstown. He had a hard race there. If they can freshen him up, just wouldn't surprise me if he was to outrun his odds now.
I wasn't a massive fan going into it, but it was just so disappointing, and it didn't seem the perfect preparation in any shape or form. I think you could say the same about Champ, who was beaten in the Cleve Hurdle miraculously by Paisley Park. How he got up I will never know. Gave him 12 lengths at the start and a comfortable beating as well. He was going away at the line. It was a good performance from Paisley Park, and it reminds you of the ability that he does have. With regards to Champ, I was very strong on him on last week's podcast, and in fairness, I think he was slightly below par, his very best. Well, he clearly was. That being said, I think Paisley Park is just an extremely good horse, and he was having one of his going days. I think out of Classical Dream and Champ, I think Champ ran better. Like Paisley Park, like Classical Dream, like Time Hill, like Flooring Porter, if they can get back to their best, all of them could win the Stayers Hurdle. All of that top six, they'd even include Sporting John in there as well. I suppose it's interesting that the Flooring Porter is very strong at the head of the market, and he's not really ran since Christmas, and that shows you what's happened to the rest of the contenders as well. I wouldn't be a fan of Classical Dream, and I think Champ is more likely to bounce back.
I think based off Aidan Coleman's comments at the end of the race in the Cleve Hurdle, he was kind of alluding to the fact that the horse had only ran badly once or twice in Cheltenham when he had the heart issues, when he came 7th in 2020, and obviously a couple of runs this year where they maybe got tactics wrong. But he was alluding to the fact that he ran very well in the race last year. Now, he ran well in the race last year to come third, beaten 10 lengths by Flooring Porter. And I just think in a strongly run race, he gets badly outpaced and he won't be able to reel them back in, personally speaking. At the age he is, I didn't think it was a great race on Saturday. It was a great story, I don't dispute that, but thought Champ was underwhelming. Lisnagar Oscar's in there, he is what he is, and McFabulous doesn't stay, so it's not exactly a robust form line to be kind of shouting and roaring about. And as you say, both Flooring Porter and Time Hill to a certain extent have enhanced their credentials for sitting in their box over the last week, and the fact that Flooring Porter will be going there fresh, I think, is a nice angle. Danny Mullins, if he can buck him out in front, I don't really see anything that's going to go past him.
Talk to me about Chantry House, because he won the Cotswold Chase, but it wasn't impressive.
No, it wasn't. His jumping just lets you down. He's a scruffy jumper in the middle part of the race. He was constantly kind of clipping the birch a lot of the time, and ends up being on the back foot, and De Boinville was kind of having to rustle him away from a lot of fences. And the fact that Santini, now to be fair, credit where it's due, Polly Gundry's done a great job with Santini, who looked like he just tested the game last year, and he's got him back, and got him back to running with a bit more spark, a bit more enthusiasm. I Right is a top handicapper, but no more than that, and he's kind of fallen in. He's a good horse. I wouldn't give up on him long term, because I still think he's unfurnished and kind of unpolished, but I can't see him winning the Gold Cup this year.
No, neither can I. An exciting novice chaser was Stattler, who won at Nace. You were there. What did you make of that run? And I know you're a massive fan of Run Wild Fred. Were you at all scared watching Stattler win?
Yeah, well, I was scared going into the race, because Stattler obviously had a big reputation, and he's a horse I like a lot. I liked him for last year's Bartlett. I've liked him this year as well in his beginner's chase, and he did it really nicely. And Farouk Delen's a good horse, good yardstick. I thought Vanillier ran a very, very pleasing race. I just think they're working back from Cheltenham for this horse. He jumped a lot better. He was giving the two front horses £8 and was bang there turning in. He's ended up weakening out of it. I think Gavin Cromwell's a very, very shrewd man and a very shrewd target trainer, and he might have maybe only 4 or 5 chances come to festival, but they'll all be live chances. I think Vanillier might be one of them. Stattler, he's got every chance in the National Hunt Chase. He's just not for me. He's going to be too short. He's too inexperienced over fences. And Mullins has had a few horses like that get beaten in recent years with a similar enough profile. So I'd be willing enough to swerve him. And also, probably, he's been a very consistent horse in his career. His worst run, definitely the Bartlett last year, so that has to be a little bit of a concern. So it wouldn't be for me. I'm holding firm with Fred and maybe Vanillier at a price.
You'll be very happy to know that Gordon Elliott has confirmed Run Wild Fred will go straight to the National Hunt Chase.
Finally, logic taking over, and we all remember me with my head in my Sam Adams last year when he didn't get on the ferry over to the Kim Muir. He would have been the biggest blot of Cheltenham history. In the Kim Muir of 140, so it was a sad old time. We're looking to reap a bit of justice this time round, and I think he's got every chance. I think that the race is made for him.
Let's Talk Racing is a big fan of Run Wild Fred. I suppose there were some good horses that also ran on the card. The bumper horse of Willie was good. The Nice Guy was good. Champion Green. Did we see any Cheltenham contenders?
I would say the closest is your horse, Champion Green, in the Boodles. He jumped really slickly, I thought. He had to make his own running. It was one of the worst maiden hurdles I've seen all year, really, especially at a metropolitan track. It was a dire race in behind, but he did it nicely. He won it easy, and you'd have to think, I think in the Boodles he'd almost be held up near on stone last, or certainly in mid-div, and you're just hoping the quicker they go and he can jump into it and maybe run very well. I think he'd get a mark in maybe the late 120s, early 130s, should give him a chance.
Unbelievable. Bashing the form that much. I got a reply to a tweet. I didn't even praise the form of the race, and he said I could finish third.
Yeah, you've just been banging on about this horse so much. Like, he finished second or third at Limerick on Stephen's Day, and you were on Twitter. I can't feel what a fantastic performance. Like, the horse that beat him that day has been beaten off 115 since for Gordon Elliott. It was a rubbish piece of form, and you were somehow clinging on to it. It was like the time you were actually over in Fairyhouse earlier this year, and I think Glens of Antrim finished 12th in the handicap hurdle, and you turned to me, that's a really good piece of form, that if she'd only jumped any of the hurdles well, she may have come 6th instead of 12th.
Don't give up on Glenda Vantrum. That's the tip. She can go close in a big one. I'm absolutely sure of that. I suppose we should talk about Kilcruit, who got back to winning ways. He won a maiden hurdle a third time of asking. Now Willie Mullins has said straight to the Supreme. He's keeping it very simple with him. Do you agree with that, and what did you make of the run?
And he did what he had to do, not dissimilar to Champion Green. Not a great maiden hurdle, and after one hurdle, I think only 2 horses were in shot with him, a fair few non-jiggers out the back. Did what he had to do. He jumped okay. He's an interesting way of getting from A to B, not very slick, but he is quite a quick horse. I think he's suited to 2 miles. I wouldn't be going any further up in trip with him, and I think there's stranger things that could happen than him running well in the Supreme. I don't really see him winning it, but there's every chance he could sneak into the frame, because he'll rock up on the day a forgotten horse, and you might have a Danny Mullins on him or a Brian Cooper on him, and he could certainly outrun his likely odds.
I really agree. I could definitely see him spoiling the party. Maybe not winning, but coming 2nd or 3rd and giving a good account of himself. But it's time to preview the Dublin Racing Festival 2022. Every single race of the 2 days of action. I'm looking forward to going into every single one. One thing we are going to have to do is fire through it. If not, we're going to be keeping you here all night. We don't want this video to be 3 hours long. We could easily do it, but we're going to try and make it as quick as possible. The first race on the Saturday is the 2 mile 6 Nathaniel Lacey Novice Hurdle. It's a Grade 1. I've actually never not picked the winner of this race since the Dublin Racing Festival began. Gallard de Menil, Commander of Fleet. Who else won it? Latest exhibition, Tower Bridge, Joseph O'Brien.
How did you pluck Tower Bridge out of the pocket?
Honestly,
that horse had no form.
100% record in this race. That being said, I don't fancy anything.
Jeez, how enlightening.
I really like Journey with Me, and then yesterday Henry de Bromhead came out and said that he's favouring going to Naas for a 2 mile 3 novice hurdle instead of going here. So I'm going to let you take the floor with this one. Is there one in here that you think is a good price?
Yeah, well, I've backed a horse in this race. I'm just fingers crossed that by the time you're watching this, he has been declared. It's Eric Bloodaxe at 7 to 1 each way, and kind of the main angle being that there's 3 places available at the moment, and this race could well be a 5-6 runner race. I think he's an improving type of horse. He was a good bumper horse a few years ago, had an injury last year. His win at at Limerick over Christmas, not a bad run. Brian Cooper in the saddle. Freedom to Dream was 7.5 lengths off him, who's not a bad horse of the Fahies. His maiden hurdle, he beat Supreme Jet of Ollie McKiernan's, won a maiden hurdle at Punchestown very impressively, and his only defeat over hurdles been to Ginto. Everyone that's watched this regularly will know that I'm a massive fan of Ginto. I think he's a super horse. So I just think there's a lot to like about him. Hollow Games, likely favourite. Probably a very fair favourite at that. I'd take on What Do You Want for Willie Mullins. I thought he ran an average race in the Lawlers and Ace, and you're getting down to Eric Bloodaxe then. 7 to 1 at the moment, especially with Journey with Me. If he doesn't run, it'll be an awful lot shorter than that, and you might have a decent each way price.
The next race is the 2 mile Racing TV Spring Juvenile Hurdle, the Grade 1. This race didn't look very inspiring about a week ago. The vibes were from the Gordon Elliott yard that Phil Dorr wouldn't run. And interestingly, I still think Gordon Elliott doesn't want to run Phil Dorr, but the owner, Andrew, I think he's bought a box for friends and family, and he wants Phil Dorr to run. Makes it very, very interesting, especially with the ground, especially with the form with Pied Piper. I would probably just side with Phil Dorr. I think he's done enough, he's got more experience. I think that might show. Phil
Dorr for me as well, and as we alluded to on the audio podcast yesterday, he'll be binoculars on with Ben Siegel in this race to see how he's ridden. I'd say no connections were as pleased to hear Phil Dorr was running as Ben Siegel, so we can just finish a little bit further down potentially and have that Jeff Kidder route towards the Boodles in mind.
The thing is we're saying this. We're saying that he's definitely going to go that route, and none of us are going to put him up, and then he's going to win, and we're going to be like, well, we've just been talking about that for months.
This happened a couple of years ago. I was convinced A Wave of the Sea was going to win the Boodles, and I was just thinking he was rocking up in this exact race, and Aspire Tower was the favourite, and I think Cerberus was in it as well. I'm thinking, great, comes 3rd or 4th. Comes down to the last, Aspire Tower falls, Cerberus pulls himself up, and A Wave of the Sea wins the race and has to run in the Triumph. and my 20-1 Boodle's Dream out the window.
Nightmare. The Irish Arkle took a bit of a hit this week with Fernie Hollow being ruled out for the season. Now Blue Lord is a pretty decent substitute for Willie Mullins to step into that Arkle favouritism, and he's 2 from 2 over fences. He jumps very well, and he'd have been a very clear second in the Supreme, probably the second best novice hurdler over 2 miles last year. I personally think he'll probably win, and I think he'll almost be very short price favourite for the Arkle in March as well.
Yeah, I think so. 6-4. It's probably not one of the great prices over the weekend, but I think he will win, and he might lead home a 1-2-3 for Willie Mullins, depending on who he runs. Halton, Galore, St. Sam, they're probably his likeliest main dangers, but I'd be with Blue Lord. I think he jumps super.
The next race is the 3 mile, used to be the William Fry handicap hurdle. Now it's the Paddy Power, I love a can but pints are cheaper handicap hurdle. Just rolls off the tongue, that one. And this is a race that we've spoken about in previous podcasts recently, saying that it's a race that Gordon Elliott likes to target potential Martin Pipe horses, potential Potemps horses towards, and the 4 that he's entered didn't really give me much. He's entered Dunboyne, he's entered Mars Harper, he's entered Farkless and Dallas de Pictons, and I could maybe see the angle with Dallas de Pictons and Dunboyne with regards to the Potemps. They're both qualified. Mars Harper, Martin Pipe, I was quite disappointed. I wanted to see an unexposed novice like Chemical Energy get entered in something like that.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't the most inspiring quartet you're ever going to see from Gordon Elliott. He usually gives the game away. Now, maybe he's been listening to these podcasts and he knows you've got your eyes on the William Fry. I'd say William Fry's almost got their sponsorship for the whole year based off the amount of times we've mentioned it. But no, it didn't look the most inspiring 4. I wouldn't fancy any of them for the race itself either.
Do you fancy anything?
Yeah, I do actually. I quite like the horse that came second in the race last year, Unexpected Depth. He likes Leopardstown, he likes this course and distance, and I thought he ran an eye-catching race in the Potemps qualifier over Christmas when he was ridden by Tommy Brett. He was well out the back, ended up staying on for 8th or 9th. He's off 142. He was second in the race last year off 141. Barry Brown will be back on. He's 16-1.
The one that I like, and potentially one of my strongest bets of the weekend, is Right Place, Right Time at 20-1 for Emmett Mullins. Now, we changed stable from Kevin O'Donnell. He won a beginner's chase on the 3rd time of asking. He won it very impressively. And the 3rd that day, who was beaten 20 lengths, is now rated 107. He went off favourite at Haydock when finishing 6th behind Don Levant. I've got a slight reservation because he's also entered at Sandown in the big feature handicap hurdle there. He's 12-1 for that race. I doubt he'll go over there, and I do think he'll run here if he can get in. He's 20-1 each way. He's got to simply win off 113, which I do think is lenient to run in the spring festivals. He's got to go up a long way. So Right Place, Right Time, 20-1 for Emmett Mullins in the 3 mile handicap hurdle. Following on from this is the Irish Gold Cup, the feature of the Saturday, and it looks a good race. Kenboy, Frodon, Minellarindo, Asterion Forlonge. That being said, plenty of question marks and no real superstar outside of Minellarindo, who obviously won the Gold Cup, but he's been disappointing since.
Yeah, exactly, and I'd say if he does run, it will be almost like his run in the Irish Gold Cup last year, where it's just almost a confidence boosting round put into him. I would say the logical option is Kenboy over this course and distance, especially on lively enough ground, which he does seem to like. With that being said, if he does rock up, one lovable but unlovable grey horse is in there. Hopefully Brian Cooper keeps the ride on Asterion Forlonge, and you know me, at this stage, it's broken record stuff, but when the big grade 1 will come his way at some stage. I'm not as concerned as other people would be of him going left-handed these days. Jumped as straight as a gun at Cheltenham last year in the marsh as it was then. I think if he runs, he's got a massive chance. If he doesn't run, I'd be with Kenboy.
Obviously could go close if he stays on his feet. That's also a big question as well. I don't really have a fancy in here. I think it's so competitive. It's going to be a watch for me. I hope Minellarindo runs well. The following race is then the 2 miles handicap chase, and there's no Buddy Rich. I think he goes straight to the Grand Daniel. I'm quite happy with that one. I quite like January Jets here for Henry de Bromhead, 10-1 each way. He has good novice chase form last year behind Ombre Alain and Janadil, who was beaten 6 lengths by both of those before putting up a very, very convincing win in a beginner's chase, actually around Leopardstown, won by 15 lengths. I think he's rated 136. I think there might be a bit of room with that mark, and I think that he could go close. So January Jets, I hope Rachel Blackmore rides. It might be Robbie Power. He also goes forward, and I think that is important at a track like Leopardstown.
Yeah, I'd agree with that in terms of going forward. I'm just a little bit wary of the Bromhead stable form, but he'd look to have a good chance. A horse I've said a couple of times now is fighting fit for this race. One of my better bets of the weekend for the Dempseys. Dempseys are in great form at the moment. He's still off a minute weight of 117. He'll be carrying less than 10 stone. I think there's an awful lot to recommend about him. He has been nibbled at. I think the best price you can get now is 9-2. He was 6-1, 7-1 last week when we initially had a preview of these races, but he'd be one of my strongest bets of the weekend.
And then moving on to the bumper, the Grade 2 bumper, I'm going to let you take the floor because I've got my third time luckies. I've got my horses that I like to bang on about. And this horse has run once, and I think you've mentioned him the best part of 20 times. Sandor Clegane.
Yeah, indeed. Look, I think the intention is for him to run. It's one of those ones, wouldn't surprise me at all if he gets declared tomorrow morning. That doesn't necessarily mean they mightn't still pull him out on the day. I think I get the impression that it's going to be very touch and go with the ground. They just want it to be safe ground. If it's safe ground, he will run. Look, Facile Vega's going to be a very hard horse to beat, and it looks a really good bumper. It's what unites us, was good on his bumper debut. The Big Doyen's a good horse for the Vies. Even Carnfunnock won by half the track over in Ayr a few months ago for Crawford. But they do like Sandor Clegane an awful lot. The Nolans, they have a little bit of an in on the form with Joy Machan coming second to Facile Vega. I think if he runs and the ground suits, I think he'll run a cracking race. He's 7-1 at the moment. I certainly would back him at that price if he was to go and run, but just be wary that I think it will be a lastminute.com decision on the ground. And if he doesn't run, he would be going straight to Cheltenham.
I just simply think Facile Vega is going to win. He's 4-5. It's not an inspiring price, but he won the bumper at Leopardstown over Christmas very, very impressively. The second, Joy Machen, also trained by Paul Nolan, has also come out and won since. The fourth, So Scottish, has ran well, and the seventh, Tenzing, as well, has also ran well. There's a bit of a sparkle in Willie Mullins' eye when he talked about this horse, and I think that he'll get the job done. Moving on then to the Sunday, and we'll preview the first race, which is the 2 mile 2 furlong Mares Handicap Hurdle. I'm going to keep this very simple. I think Party Central, the favourite 9-4, will go very close. She'd be my pick in the race. It's a handicap, so you need a bit of luck, but she could be chucked in off 121. She was second in a Grade 2 Mares bumper last year at the meeting behind Gronji. She then won a listed Mares bumper at Fairy House in April, and then she was successful on a maiden hurdle, and then last time out she won a listed 2 mile 4 Mares novice hurdle. I think she's got a lovely profile, and she could definitely be one that turns into a Mares Novice Hurdle horse down the line at a Cheltenham Festival, and she'll be wanting to pick up a pot like this on the way to doing that.
Yeah, look, she looks a very well handicapped horse, and you'd think she'd be held on to for an awful long way for a late run. Horse I like that might go forward is The Lady in Red, only just lost out to a JP McManus and Charles Perns gamble at Cork last time out. Likeable mare, jumps very well. She's still off a decent enough handicap rating as well. She's 10-1. Hopefully she can run well and run into the frame. You're likely to get 5 or 6 places with a lot of bookies for that race.
The following race is the 2 mile 5 Ladbrokes Novice Chase, the Grade 1. No bet for me, but I just hope we can see Galopin Deschamps put in another spectacular performance. That being said, this week, and it is a topic we have to talk about, Ruby Walsh came out on the Paddy Power podcast and said that if he's spectacular again and his jumping is his main asset and he looks very good, then why do we need to send him up in trip for Cheltenham? Why do we need to go up to 3 miles? And we could probably take on Bob Ollinger. Maybe it'd be nice to see him not be so spectacular, but just get the job done at the Dublin Racing Festival. Do you think that there is a chance, or is this just talk from Ruby? Is there any substance to it?
I think there is substance to it. Now, look, I'm a little bit like you. I was interested to see how you were going to answer that in terms of wanting him to scrape in. The problem is, if he goes and does exactly what he did at Christmas time again and wins by 10-15 lengths, like, it's no different to what Dysart Dynamo did in the Moscow Flyer. And I'm here trying to fashion up a reason for Dysart Dynamo to come to the Ballymore. There's absolutely no reason to actually do it, other than the fact that half of the people have backed him for the Ballymore. With Galopin Deschamps, if he shows gears, like, I don't think with Capodanno getting within 4 lengths of Bob Ollinger that Willie Mullins is sitting at home having cold sweats about Bob Olinger. So I think if he's really impressive, I could see it happening. I think for your sake, you'd want to see him maybe win by a couple of lengths. Master McShee or something, make a big race of it for the Corkeries. I'd love him to run well, but as you say, no bet. And you hope the winner is as good as he certainly looked at Christmas time.
I agree, and I also think that Willie Mullins this season will want to beat Bob Olinger, whether that be at Cheltenham, whether that be at Punchestown. If he can take a half length for every single fence in the Marsh, then that's going to add up, and it's going to be very difficult, albeit Bob Ollinger's a brilliant horse, to peg Galloping de Champ back. I hope he scrapes in, and I hope they go, 3 miles straight away, Willie Mullins to Racing TV. We're going up in trip. The next race is the Ladbrokes Dublin Chase over 2 miles and a furlong. Good to see Grenadine come over for Paul Nicholls. My bet in this, and it's an interesting one, I think it's something that you'd put up. Captain Guinness at 5-1 each way. I think he's an each way bet to nothing. Chacun Pour Soi, if he underperforms for whatever reason, and he did seriously underperform in the Tingle Creek last time out, I'd back Captain Guinness to reverse the 5 lengths with Grenadine. He's on home soil around a track he's been there before, albeit Chacun Pour Soi on ratings is a mile ahead of these two, and if he is back to his best, nothing will be beating him.
I'm getting a bit of a nosebleed, you putting Captain Guinness up. Next week I'll be putting Third Time Lucky up for the Arc. Don't say the world is changing rapidly. It wouldn't be a betting race for me. Look, I'm a big fan of Chacun Pour Soi. I want to see him back. I want to see him run well and win, and I think I agree with you. If he runs to his 100% around Leopardstown, he'll pick these up on the way and win easy, and that's kind of just what I want to see happen. So as you say, with the fact that he's run poorly at Sandown, would you be sharking in at even money? Probably not. You'd allow him win at that type of price, but he'd certainly be the horse I'd want to see win.
Do you have a fancy in the 2.5 mile handicap chase?
3 words, Joshua, off a mark of 142 in lovely navy silks with orange epaulets and orange sleeves and just a couple of orange dots on his head. Barry Brown claiming 3, pumping away, lovely white face, cheek pieces on. Gallant John Joe. 12-1. I think he's well handicapped. I think he'll run very well.
I'm not going to take the limelight away from that. I think Bustleton could run well each way at 10-1. The following race is the 2 miles Chanel Palmer Irish Champion Hurdle. Honeysuckle bids for a hat-trick in the race. No bet for me, but I was lucky enough to catch up with Barry Geraghty this week, and he said that he actually rode Zanahiyr out all of last year at home at Gordon Elliott's, and he got on him recently, and he thought that he had improved. He was very encouraged by his close second at Christmas to Sharjah, a race that would suit Sharjah down to a T. He's always run well in that race, and he liked what he saw. And he's also said that I don't think he's put his best foot forward. So I think we could see an improved Zanahiyr. I'm not saying he's going to beat Honeysuckle at the weekend, but maybe looking down the line, potentially an entry hurdle, maybe a champion hurdle, he could pick up a place. Simple. Honeysuckle, does she win?
Yeah, I think so. She's obviously long odds on to do so. Want to see her maintain that unbeaten record. I'd be with you. I think Zanahiyr will run well. I think Sanwa will run well as well. He ran well over Christmas. A little bit keen as well. So I'd say those two will probably fill second and third. Doubt Appreciated will run, the rest of them not up to it.
The next race is the 2 mile Tattersalls Ireland Novice Hurdle, the Grade 1, and we see Sir Gerhard, who is favourite. He's 6-4. I think he'll win. I think that's a very good price. The second favourite is Al Fabiolo. I know you're a big fan of him. Maybe looking at Cheltenham Festival handicaps, what do you want to see from him here?
Probably come third or fourth, maybe. A little bit similar to Galloping de Champ, who came 5th in this race last year. I think Sir Gerhard will win. I think 6-4 is not a bad price, as you say. I actually think 3 Stripe Life for muggy players is a good each way bet at 6-1, because I can't see him out of the 3. I think he's a cracking bet to get into the frame. And if something happened to Sir Gerhard, he'd maybe be the likeliest one to sweep up the goods. El Fabiolo, hopefully a good run, but maybe not too good.
Yeah, Mighty Potter is very doubtful for Gordon Elliott, and 3 Stripe Life will definitely run. I actually think 3 Stripe Life has been massively overlooked for the Ballymore. I could easily see him finishing as staying on second or third. Gordon thinks step up in trip. 25-1, I think that's a big price, and in what looks a very open Ballymore, he could be interesting. He's definitely a horse that I've got on my radar for the next anti-post video. I'm very tempted to put him up. The next race is the 2 mile Liffey Handicap Hurdle, the Grade B contest. I like 2 in here. I think Gordon Elliott will land the spoils. I'm not sure which one will do so. I like Glan at 16 to 1 if she does run. She's also entered in the Mares Handicap Hurdle. She's beat Jeremy's Jewel off levels in October. She went close in a big field handicap last time out, and 123 might be low in comparison to her ability. But the one that I do think is interesting, and he's a massive price, and it's Call Me Lyrene at 33 to 1 for Gordon Elliott. A horse that's got 3 zeros next to his name on his last 3 runs, and he was a Grade 2 winner at Nace last year as a 4-year-old. He's had 3 very quiet runs in handicaps this season. He's finished 11th, he's finished 10th, he's finished 12th as well. Yet the handicap has only dropped him £2. He's off 138. I think he could go well. He went off favourite last time out at Leopardstown at Christmas. Ran no sort of race. Do you fancy one in this?
Yeah, again, two at bigger prices. I wouldn't put you off backing each way. Get My Drift being one of them for Mouse Morris. Think a really strong run, 2 miles, will suit this horse down to the ground. Ran quite nice over Christmas. He's 16 to 1. And also Arthur Moore's horse, Sea Ducker. I got the feeling he may have needed a few pounds to be shaved off him at Christmas time. Was fairly robust looking in the parade ring beforehand. Ran an average enough race in mid-div. He's got some decent enough form though. He's 25 to 1. Might be worth a couple of pennies each way.
The last race then to conclude the Dublin Racing Festival is the Mares' Bumper, the Grade 2 contest, and I like the second favourite, Harmonia Maker at 5 to 1. Pink in the Park's favourite, slightly on the drift. I don't think you can look more visually impressive in a bumper. I don't think I've ever seen maybe Kilcruit last year at the Dublin Racing Festival. That being said, it was at Listowel, it was in September, and the form's absolutely horrendous. She could be anything, she could be open to improvement, but it's just not inspiring form, and you do have to take that race in face value. It would be the equivalent of a horse bolting up at Stratford in a bumper in September. Maybe not a horse you think of festivals in the spring. So Harmonia Maker for Gordon Elliott. I think they think the world of her. She's ran well twice in bumpers. She won last time out. She bolted up last time out. Very impressive. 5 to 1. I'd imagine Jamie Codd would ride her as well. So she will go close for me. 5 to 1. Maybe an each way play as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you completely on that. I really like this Harmonia Maker. I love the horse and Noel Meads to beat her on debut, the Mottle Kingdom. I think she's a very good mare. I thought she might run in this race. I don't think she's going to though. Harmonia Maker was second in a listed race first time out, then hacked up last time out. I think as long as the ground is safe, I think she'll run a massive race.
There we go. The Let's Talk Racing boys finishing on a 5 to 1 winner at the Dublin Racing Festival. It'll be the stuff of dreams. Let's then put up our best bets, and I've got 3. I'm going to quickly fire through them. One is Right Place, Right Time, 20 to 1 for the Dublin Racing Festival, 12 to 1 at Sandown. Wherever he runs, I think I'll back him. Party Central at 9 to 4 in the Mares Handicap Hurdle, I think should be very difficult to beat. And then also one at Wetherby, who I mentioned at the start, Copper Cove for John Joe O'Neill in the bumper. Not sure what price he's going to be. I think there could be a decent price about him, and I think it could go very close. I'm sure Connections think that as well. Your best bets, take it away.
Yeah, got 4 for you. The 350 on Saturday at Leopardstown Fighting Fit. I've banged on about his case long enough. Get My Drift in the handicap hurdle at 16 to 1. I think he's well overpriced for Mouse Morris. And then 2 absolute favourites of mine. We've got GJJ in the 225 at 12 to 1. Gallant John Joe for those newcomers to the channel that don't know. But he's been sharked in. He was 25 to 1 yesterday. Absolute sharks out there that have punted him into 8s on Paddy Power. I need to have a word with some people. And the other one, don't know what price he'll be, but another legend of the Let's Talk Racing channel in the 129 at Musselburgh on Saturday. Bardenstown lad, this year's Albert Bartlett winner, hopefully enhancing his claims in the 3 mile novice hurdle. If he doesn't win the race on Saturday, I might have to throw the 50 to 1 in the bin, to be fair, because it doesn't look one of the great races.
The thing is, he's going to be probably 1 to 3, so well done, Andrew, for picking that winner there at Musselburgh. But I do hope you've enjoyed watching this Dublin Racing Festival preview of 2022. If you did enjoy it, please hit that like button and comment your selections down below as well. We're very keen to listen to all of those, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you soon.